Hello, fellow book lovers. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. We are going to do a reading vlog, which is something I haven't done since I went on holiday to Spain, and I tried to film a holiday in Spain reading vlog, like what did I read on my holiday in Spain sort of situation. And I hated editing that video so much that I was hesitant to film another reading vlog, and I thought maybe it wasn't for me. But I've decided I want to give it another go, because I do think while I was filming the updates in Spain, I was really just getting used to talking to a camera, because I think it was like the 4th video I posted maybe, but it was I think the 2nd video that I've ever filmed. So I definitely was still struggling talking to a camera, and I felt like I just wasn't getting to the point whatsoever. So I had so much footage that editing it took long, first of all, but also I was kind of just not really talking in a very structured manner, so editing was also very difficult because of that. Anyway, I have decided I want to give vlogging another go now that I've had a little bit more practice talking to a camera, and I think if I prep a little bit what I want to say, it will be less of a mess, and I think maybe it could be fun. So I just want to take you all along for 1 week, and let's see what I read in that week. It is the 1st of December right now, and I just finished a book last night, and it is a Monday, so I thought all of this combined was the perfect setup for a reading vlog that is titled Read With Me for a Week, because I can actually start on Monday while starting a new book. And yeah, I think that's just the perfect combo. So I'm going to be taking you along for an entire week, and I'm going to show you what I read, talk to you about what I read. Well, you know what a reading vlog is. So anyway, I don't know what book I want to start with, because I have 2 options. I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, which, if you haven't heard, is about 2 brothers dealing with the loss of their... Give me. I feel like I need to tell you what was going on. My cat in the background, like behind the camera, was trying to eat off a plate, and I think my boyfriend was struggling because he wanted to tell the cat to stop, but also he didn't want to interrupt my filming. So that was what was happening there. Anyway, Intermezzo by Sally Rooney is about 2 brothers, and they're dealing with grief as their father has passed away, I think just before the start of the book. I think it starts at the funeral, and these brothers have kind of drifted apart over the years, and I think, but honestly, I haven't read the synopsis since I bought it last year. I think these 2 brothers are kind of going to grow a little bit more towards each other now that they have gotten back into contact. So that's Intermezzo, and I am most drawn to this at the moment. I think I will start reading this because I'm the most excited about this one. But then I have a little bit of a struggle because I also have 4 more books on my fall TBR. And Intermezzo, as well as the other book I'll be talking about in a sec, which is Beautiful Boy, are both on my December TBR, but Beautiful Boy is also on my fall TBR, and Intermezzo is not. So obviously fall is until the 21st of December. So if I want to complete my fall TBR, which I really do want to do, I need to read Beautiful Boy and 3 other books before the 21st. And obviously if I start a book now that is not on my fall TBR, I lower my chances of achieving this. So I feel like of my December TBR, that consists of 8 books, I also kind of need to read the 4 books that are on my fall TBR first to get them out of the way, so I finish them at least before the 21st of December. But then, do I want to achieve my TBR so much to the point that I'm gonna not pick up the book that I'm most excited about? So that's the dilemma that I'm having at the moment. But yeah, so the other option is Beautiful Boy, which is out of the 4 books on my TBR, the one that I'm definitely most excited about. This is a nonfiction book written by David Sheff, and it is basically his journey, it says also here, his journey through his son's addiction. This is actually a very heavy story, I think, because it deals with drug addiction written from the perspective of the father of the addict, and he is addicted to crystal meth. So that's a heavy topic, which I don't mean that as a bad thing. I think a heavy topic can make a really powerful, impactful, and good book. So I definitely am excited about this one. I just think maybe I want to read Intermezzo first. So those are my two options. I'm going to do some thinking and I will talk to you in the next update, and by then I will have started reading, and obviously by then I will have chosen one of the two, so you will find out which one I actually ended up going with. It is now Wednesday morning, so it is 2 days later. I can give an update now on Beautiful Boy, which is the book I ended up going with. So I am on page 123. I am actually really getting into this now. The first, I think, 3 chapters, I was not super into the book, and I was thinking, okay, I really hope it picks up a bit, because the first 3 chapters, I was honestly just a little bored, I guess. There was a lot of details described that had nothing to do with his drug addiction, and that's understandable. Obviously, you want some background information about his life, but I just felt like it was a little bit too much descriptions of things that did not matter. So it starts with an introduction, and the introduction is written from the perspective of the father while his son is in freshman year at college, and then it jumps back in time, and chapter 1 starts when Nick, the boy, is born. So it jumps quite a while back in time, and we basically get his whole entire youth described to us. And I think it takes like 3 chapters until we get to the part that he is first caught with marijuana in his backpack. So those first 3 chapters, I feel like could have been a bit shorter, maybe. There were definitely some things in there that I wouldn't have wanted to miss, and obviously it paints a picture of what his life looks like. A big focus is on the divorce of his biological parents, and then also on how his stepmother comes into his life. So in the first 2-3 chapters, we do get information about how he developed a bond with his stepmother. I think those things were interesting, and definitely some other details about just the kind of kid he was and the things he liked and his relationship with his father. Those things are all very interesting. But there were also a lot of descriptions of places. I just didn't think all of that was necessary. So, for example, there's like a whole paragraph that describes the house of his parents-in-law. Sorry for my voice, by the way. I have a little bit of I don't know. I feel like my voice is cracking. I'm sorry about that. I need to drink some tea or something. But yeah, it also at some point describes the town that they're going to be moving towards. And I think it is more than a page of a description of the town. And while I do understand the value of looking at a kid with addiction in context, sometimes it was just a bit too much for me. For example, at some point he actually lists 20 jobs that people in that town do. So he's like, oh, the town was filled with this job and this job and this job and this job. And I think he lists like 20. And I just thought something like that was just not very interesting, could have been cut in the editing phase, I think. So that's one thing that I didn't like at the beginning. And then another thing that I also didn't really like, but I think that is maybe a little bit particular to me as well. There is a lot of name dropping of towns, rivers, lakes, but also brands, stores, restaurant chain names, things like that. And this takes place in 1980s America. And I am not in the 80s. I have never lived near the 80s. I also haven't ever been to America. So to me, most of those names mean nothing, and I've never heard of them. And sometimes from context, I understand like, oh, this must be like a hotel chain, or this must be probably a fast food joint. But it is just not a very pleasant reading experience to constantly read sentences in which I have to sort of think, okay, I don't know what that is, but it's probably this. And it's just so many names of things that I've never heard of. But after chapter 3, the topic of drugs is more introduced, and that made the book instantly more interesting to read about. So it talks about how the father deals with the fact that his son is caught with marijuana. It talks about dilemmas in parenthood. Do we need to punish him? Do we need to talk to him? Does he need to go to therapy? Do we mention it to his school? And if so, how do we do that? Things like that. And I just feel like that is what I was really expecting when I picked up this book. And I'm glad that that's what I'm now also getting. So since chapter 4, I have been way more interested in the book, and now I actually feel like I really want to read on. So I'm actually going to go do that, and I will see you in another update. It is now Thursday early afternoon, and I am currently on page 163. Honestly, that's a lot less reading than I thought I did. But the book is really starting to get a lot more interesting. I think the thing I said before about the name dropping that was bothering me, I feel like that hasn't happened in a while, so maybe that was just the introduction. It's getting also a lot heavier because Nick has now really gotten into meth, whereas before it was marijuana. Now he has gotten into crystal meth, which is known to be the most addictive drug I think that exists on Earth, at least the most addictive among the drugs that are widely used. So it's getting really intense, but it's also getting a lot more interesting. I love that he talks to us about different dilemmas that he has as a parent. He also mentions struggling with what to tell and, if anything, how to tell his other kids that are quite young, because Nick is from a previous marriage and now he is remarried to Karen, and they have 2 kids that are in primary school. I think they might be 5 and 8 or something like that. So he is struggling to tell them or not to tell them, and what to tell them, how much details to give them, because obviously they also see that something's going on. And sometimes Nick goes missing for days at a time. It also went quite into detail about meth and like the history of the drug. So at some point it read almost a bit like a medical textbook or something like that, which I didn't really see that coming, but I didn't mind it that much, to be honest. I thought it was a good addition to the story and to understand the addiction. To say I'm enjoying the book feels really weird, but I do constantly feel like I want to pick it up because I want to know what happens next. And I'm having a interesting time with it, at least. So that is the update on what I'm thinking of the book so far. Like I said, it is now Thursday. I am meeting up with a friend for coffee now, and I might get a little bit of reading done in the cafe because she's going to study and I'm going to probably do some reading. But I also need to edit a video that is going up tonight, the 4th of December. So I might do that. But then I'm also traveling tonight. I'm going to visit my mom, so I will take a train and a bus. It is about an hour and 15 minutes of travel time, so I'll probably get a lot of reading done on the commute as well. And then probably tonight. So I think today is going to be the day that I at least get a good chunk of reading done in this book. We will see in the next update. I finished Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. Finally, I feel like I took such a long time. It is a couple days later now, but I did finish the book on Sunday evening. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I think the middle of the book was very good, but the end, it was so long. This book has an epilogue, then a thing called Postscript for UK edition, and then it has an afterword. So I just felt like we got 3 epilogues, to be honest. I do get the purpose of the afterword because the afterword is written 10 years after the original publication date. So in that sense, it's interesting. It's like 10 years later, how are they now? But the thing is, that's not really what the afterword was about at all. I think only 5% of the afterword was actually about Nick and David and their family. So yeah, it was interesting that we got to see how Nick did in those 10 years. But then that was just 5%. And the other 95% was information that I think we just didn't need. We got random 3 or 4 pages on American politics, where David was just informing us on drug policies over the years in the USA. I just feel like that didn't need to be in this book because this is a memoir. And that is also one of the main critique points I have for this book. It is very textbooky at times. And that isn't a bad thing per se, but it isn't a textbook. And that's where my problem comes in. It's a memoir. It is advertised as a memoir. And I've never read a memoir that is so textbooky before. It just wasn't what was advertised, and so it wasn't what I was expecting. It felt a bit like this book just couldn't decide between wanting to be a memoir and wanting to be an educational textbook about meth. If I had known it was going to be so textbooky, I just think I would have gone into it with a very different expectation, and then maybe it would have been better. Another critique point I have is something I already mentioned, and I think I mentioned in a later update that it wasn't so bad anymore, but then it got bad again. So the name dropping thing, I thought it was so annoying. So many names dropped. Places, rivers, bridges, lakes, whatnot. They're all called by name, and I didn't know more than half of them. It's not that I don't understand, because from context you do understand, oh, this is a lake, oh, this is a building, oh, this is a food chain. But the reading experience just isn't pleasant, because it does kind of feel like you're reading a sentence that goes like, oh, and then I walked across the to the with my son, and we went into the which is just not, that's just annoying. And that ties in as well with a general critique point that I have, which is that this book is very, very descriptive, but not in a good way. Descriptive is good if the subject that you're describing is interesting. And he described a lot of things that I didn't care. I'm sorry, I just don't need to know the pattern on the wall of the house of your parents-in-law. I don't. 40% of this book was descriptions. And out of those 40%, most of it was descriptions of places that I just didn't care enough to know what they looked like. So that's a lot of critique that I have, actually. But like I said, the story was good. So that is why it still gets a 3-star. And there were definitely parts of it that were very emotional, very impactful. It was interesting to read about the parenting dilemma surrounding addiction of a kid and the relationship he had with his son. There were tons of those things that were very interesting to me. One thing I found specifically very heartbreaking was the relationship that he had with his other kids. I could feel it seeping off the page that he wasn't giving them enough attention. And I think he knows that as well. And so I didn't mind that because it is a real depiction of what happened. But it was so sad to me because he cannot think about anything but his other son, even when he is doing things with his younger kids. So he goes to their graduation and then he only thinks about his other son. And he goes swimming with them, and all he can think about is, oh, I went swimming with Nick here as well. I really felt so sad for those kids. I think they did not get the attention they deserved because their father, and understandably, but their father could only think about his one kid, and he had 3, but all he could think about was the one. So, in conclusion, a 3-star rating for Beautiful Boy. The middle was good. The story was good. There were interesting dilemmas discussed. If you want to know what it is like from a parent's POV to have a kid with a very severe addiction, then I would recommend. But the writing style was not my favorite, and I think generally this book could have just been edited down and been 100 pages less long. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it was 100 pages shorter. So those are my thoughts on Beautiful Boy. And that concludes my reading vlog, in which I read a total of 1 book. Yay! I thought about this, and actually I don't mind filming reading vlogs. I think it is fun, but I do think I'm not gonna format them with a predetermined time frame anymore, where it's something like, oh, how much can I read in a week? I think I'm more gonna pick a certain amount of books and then film a reading vlog where I read those books and just see how long it takes me. I think that puts a lot less pressure on myself to finish a book in a certain amount of time. Because I did notice this week, I was constantly thinking, oh, but actually I want to read 2 books before the end of the week. And then this book was just kind of slow paced and I wasn't really flying through it. I was kind of stressing, to be honest. I was thinking like, oh no, but I'm filming a reading vlog. I need to at least have read 2 books in the reading vlog because everyone does that. And then I was thinking to myself on Sunday night, I'm not doing this again. I'm just not doing this again. Not in this way. So my next reading vlog will be me reading a certain title, or maybe 2 or 3 titles, and we'll see how long it takes me. So that was the end of today's video. I am so happy if you watched all the way until the end. Thank you so much. And I also hope to see you in the next one. Bye!